Hello, welcome to Sound and Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I'm Tina. Today I'm doing a book review of An Impossibility of Crows by Kirsten Kaschock. This is a book that's coming out March 3rd, 2026 from University of Massachusetts Press. It is a horror novel, kinda. I received this book from NetGalley in exchange for a fair review. Dark and dreary, it's hard to understand what An Impossibility of Crows is trying to say. Yes, an odd, non-enthusiastic review here. What is this book about? A story of mothers, monsters, and the science of longing. Agnes Cron, a chemist trained in Philadelphia, returns to her childhood home after the death of her father. Just a stone's throw from the haunted fields of Gettysburg, the small town of LaTorte, Pennsylvania, is where the Cron family has lived for 6 generations, bound by twisted folk wisdom and an uncanny kinship with the crows that loom over their land. Back in the grim farmhouse of her youth, Agnes is drawn into the strange legacy she tried to leave behind. When she discovers an abandoned nest in the barn, she becomes consumed by a scientific and deeply personal goal: to breed a crow large and intelligent enough to carry her daughter Mina to freedom Agnes has never known herself. As the bird grows, so does its terrifying potential, manifest in language, cunning, and a violent will of its own. What begins as a gesture of love and liberation turns darkly obsessive, echoing the dangerous ambition of Frankenstein's monster and the generational trauma buried in the soil of her family's past. This book sounded right up my alley. It sounds super cool. I love a literary horror with complex themes, but I will admit that this book wasn't really my cup of tea. I will say what I liked about it first, as I do think the author has talent. The book has some interesting ideas and some great imagery. Her bio says she's also a poet, which makes sense after reading this book. It's got some really lyrical lines that I didn't highlight, but I thought the book flowed really well. It's easy to picture what's going on, and the characters are well developed, if not likable. The inclusion of some letters was a great way to break up the text too, and there are some subtle mysteries that unfolded in interesting ways, particularly in regards to the sisters. So I think that the writer is a great writer, actually. I just think I didn't really connect with this particular story. There's also a reference to a favorite poem of mine, The Second Coming by Yeats, though aside from a not-so-subtle way of calling her monstrous pet crow the Antichrist, I'm not sure what the reference was for. And no, I'm not going to read the poem this time. I only read poems for books that I love. Sorry. The book I think my main issue with it was that I really did not like the main character. And unlikable main characters generally are not an issue for me, as long as I find them interesting. But I found nothing interesting about Agnes in the slightest. We have an obsessive woman who doesn't want to be a mother. That's fine. A book that delves into why someone wouldn't be able to properly love their child or care for them would be a valid and interesting topic. But if you're going to address this, why not make her sympathetic as a way to show the reader the struggles, or to make them kind of understand why someone would struggle in this way? Instead, she's the most sad sack, unforgivable, I had a bad childhood, so I'm going to pass the trauma on to my kid person that I've ever read. I could not stand her. Every choice she made was selfish and, quite frankly, stupid. Rather than read like a real person who made a few mistakes or has unprocessed trauma that causes her to look inward rather than outward, she's hyperbolic. She's almost a caricature. I found her irritating beyond all else, and the only chance she has to redeem herself, she steps aside from, and I was like, why? Why? I suppose she could be a stand-in for trauma itself, how it can eat you up or warp your chances for success, but I disliked her too much to give this book a deeper dive. Like, she could have been softened somewhat. Perhaps drop the cheating, the drinking while pregnant, the never bothering to call your 9-year-old for months and don't know what her favorite color is nonsense. Like, are we supposed to empathize with this woman? Are we supposed to be like, yeah, that's all mothers really don't like their children. That's 100% true. And I don't know, it just seemed weird. I was like, this is weird. Why is she like this? And then there was a bunch of references to Gettysburg, and I'm like, I don't know what this American crap is. You have to provide me some context. And I don't know why that was mentioned in the blurb, because it's really not a big part of the story. I also didn't really understand the whole giant crow thing. I'm not a biologist, but how does that make sense in 3 crow generations? Is it supposed to be a metaphor for a science project gone awry? Is that why the Frankenstein thing was mentioned in the blurb? If so, it was either too heavy-handed or it was too vague. I really couldn't make heads or tails of it. The book is classified as a horror, but aside from a very the birds scene, there's really nothing scary about it. I wouldn't even consider it a horror. I would consider it more of a psychological mystery, maybe? Now, normally I'm not a harsh reviewer. Normally I try to say nice things about every book that I read, and I did say some nice things about this book. As I said, I don't think this book is awful. I'm giving this book I mean, if you could give half stars, I think I'd give it a 2.5, but I'm going to give it a 3 stars on Goodreads because I don't think that it's bad. I just really didn't like the main character. And I just thought the themes were there's too many themes and the premise was unrealistic. I think I rather would have just watched an actual version of The Crows Have Eyes, R.I.P. Catherine O'Hara, but, like, I think I would have found that more interesting. Yeah, so sorry about the, not very glowing review here. And yeah, I always feel bad when I give reviews about books I don't like, but I don't know. This book was such a downer when I was on vacation. I was like, I almost DNF'd it. Oh well, you can't win them all. So yeah, thanks for listening to that.